identity, and heritage. We recognize that these tribes are fortunately still here, and we are committed to honoring their stories, culture, and community. Our existence as a spiritual community can never be fully understood without appreciating the depth of the loss of their land in generations past and the enduring hopes for the renewed vitality of these cultures in years to come. Good morning.
Good morning.
I am David Early. My pronouns are he and him, and it is my privilege to be your worship associate for today's service. This is Emerson Unitarian Universalist Church, named for the great American transcendentalist writer and Unitarian minister Ralph Waldo Emerson. We are an active, inclusive community that has been present as a liberal religious home in the West Valley for over 65 years. Welcome to our sanctuary of intellectual freedom and enlightenment, spiritual fellowship, and commitment to social, economic, and environmental justice. In Unitarian Universalism, the sixth of our 7 principles is the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. We are committed to work toward this goal individually with actions and words, and collectively as participants in organized movements. In our recent history, it was the brave and determined African American pioneers of the civil rights movement who best exemplified with their actions their unwavering motivation to achieve this goal for their long oppressed people while suffering state-sanctioned discrimination and horrific violence. Fannie Lou Hamer was one of these genuine American civil rights heroes. I was aware that she spoke at the 1964 Democratic National Convention in her effort to get official recognition of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, which challenged the local Democratic Party's efforts to block black participation. Hamer and other MFDP members went to the Democratic National Convention that year, arguing to be recognized as the official delegation. Further research revealed the extreme police brutality she and other members of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee experienced in Mississippi in 1963, which almost killed her. I guess if I had any sense, I'd been a little scared, she said about the night in August 1962 when she attended a Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee meeting and volunteered to go to the courthouse the next day to register to vote. But what was the point of being scared? The only thing the whites could do was kill me, and it seemed like they had been trying to do that a little bit at a time since I could remember. Fannie Lou Hamer is an enduring and powerful example of someone who, instead of being overwhelmed by adversity, strengthened her resolve to force the entrenched white power structure to ensure peace, liberty, and justice for blacks in the U.S. If you are joining us in worship for the first time, we gladly welcome you to our service and invite you to fill out your information in the online guest book document in the chat or the guest book in the foyer for those of you here in the sanctuary, so you may be informed about future services and other opportunities for gathering with the Emerson community during the week. We also have a website that is regularly updated with church information. If you would like to have a joy or sorrow read aloud later in the service during our embracing meditation, submit it by clicking in the link, those of you attending on Zoom, which is also posted in the chat. After the service, we will have refreshments available in the pavilion, so those of you here in the sanctuary are invited to join us. Everyone online is invited to join our virtual coffee hour in Zoom after the service for fellowship and conversation.
This morning, for our story for all ages, rather than, as we often do, telling a story. This time we're going to have, we're going to watch a video that I found, which I absolutely love.
The Quechuachaca Bridge in Peru is rebuilt every year using traditional Inca engineering techniques by the local communities on either side of the canyon. This bridge has been continually rebuilt in the same location since the time of the Incas. The entire bridge is built in only 3 days. To construct the bridge, grass called coyo is harvested and then prepared to be woven into large cables, beginning with small cord, which is twisted together from the local grass. These cords are then twisted to form a larger rope, and the ropes are then braided to create the main cable. Up on the highway, the community works together to pull these ropes to stretch them out. These ropes are woven and twisted. Each rope is made from 30 of the small cords, and then 3 of these ropes are braided to form the cables that will support the bridge. After more stretching, the cables are then carried down to where the bridge will be installed. The old bridge is used to run the first cable across for what will become the new bridge. And then the old bridge is cut down and it falls into the water and is washed away by the river. All day long, the community pulls on the new cables to prepare them for the bridge. These supporting cables are anchored to the stone abutments on either side of the canyon. Victoriano Arizapana is the architect of the bridge, and he uses traditional methods which have been handed down in his family for centuries.
Trabajito que mi papá me ha puesto, he empezado desde los 12 añitos. Nisho tanque puente Quechuachacata no ka munakone. O sea, wawaita hena vestita munane.
The structure of the bridge is made with 4 cables for the floor and 2 handrails. The bridge weaving begins in the morning, with Victoriano weaving from one side and another worker weaving from the other side until they meet in the center of the bridge. When the bridge is finally finished, the communities come together to celebrate. The structure is remarkably safe. It has been built for centuries in this way and can hold dozens of people at any one time.
So that bridge, there's no other bridge anywhere in the world that's built like that. In fact, it's the only bridge that is still weaved every year. Only bridge that exists that is still weaved in that way. And what I love about it, in addition to just how kind of amazing it is that they're able to build that, and they do that year after year, but the way that the community comes together, that all, it takes, not just one people, but it takes the whole community, and in fact, 2 different villages coming together and weaving that straw together so that it becomes strong and can support the whole community. Today, in our service, we're talking about the actions we can take as individuals, as well as what we can do collectively as a community together. And as we can see here, it's a combination of both. It requires us as individuals to show up, but also the power that we have together. Now I invite you to join me in saying our UU affirmation. If you know the hand signals, you can do them with me. They're pretty simple. We are Unitarian Universalists, a people of open minds, loving hearts, and welcoming hands.
Today's offering words are by Heather Christensen. Unitarian Universalism is a grand vision of a world filled with peace and justice, love and joy. That vision is embodied in a few large congregations, numerous mid-sized congregations, and many, many small congregations. No matter its size, every congregation depends on each of its members, each one of you, by your commitment of time, energy, and resources, helps make that grand vision real. Individually and together, we are Unitarian Universalists, building a world filled with peace and justice, love and joy. Will the ushers please come forward to take the offering? You can also give by going to our website, emersonuuc.org/donate, using the Vanco mobile app, or mailing a check to the church.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
Hello, good morning. Hi, I'd like to offer a reflection. So some of you, well, for those I haven't met, hello, my name's Anna Wagner, and I work for Green Faith, which is an interfaith global climate activist organization. And I want to share a story that gave me a sense of awe in the power of praying with our feet. This past Wednesday, 28 clergy and faith leaders were arrested at BlackRock's corporate headquarters in New York City for prayerfully and peacefully protesting the financial giant's investments of $259 billion in fossil fuel companies, including oil projects that are destroying the Amazon. These brave, righteous leaders called for an immediate end to new fossil fuel projects and deforestation and a rapid transition to 100% renewable energy. And a just and fair phase out of fossil fuel production. One of the activists, Reverend Schuler Vogel, a senior minister at Fourth Universalist Society, so proud to say there were many Unitarian Universalists involved, they said, "I took action today because the climate crisis is too dangerous morally to do otherwise. This corporation is the largest asset manager in the world and has claimed to be a climate ally, but their actions say otherwise. Their hypocrisy makes them complicit in the suffering and death of countless people. The warming of the planet isn't merely a crisis of too much carbon in the atmosphere. It's a spiritual and moral crisis," says Reverend Chelsea McMillan, an interfaith minister. Corporate executives at BlackRock are making decisions out of greed, willful ignorance, and total disregard for the planet. They can do better than this, and they must do better than this. These righteous souls took action because we are fighting for our lives. We are fighting for a livable future for our children and for future generations. And history shows us that when we rise up as people of faith, the arc bends towards justice. From the civil rights movement in the US to the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa to Gandhi's peaceful resistance against British rule, our bold actions for a better world make a difference. Faith and spirit-filled people have gotten countless corporations to move away from supporting fossil fuels and other immoral industries. These campaigns have and will make a difference. And whether you join a protest or simply move your own retirement funds out of corporations destroying the planet, or stop banking with a big company like Bank of America that's destroying our earth, each of us can make a difference in our own ways and in our own lives. And so I wanted to extend an invitation on behalf of the Environmental Justice Ministry team for two things. After the service, we'll be writing letters to get out the vote in important congressional races across the country. There's so much at stake. And then on Monday, we're a part of a rally in Pasadena. It will be at Pasadena City Hall at 3:30. And we're going to be supporting the city's efforts to move swiftly to 100% clean energy by 2030. And we'll be carpooling from Emerson, so meet me here on Monday at 2:30 if you'd like to ride with us. So there's so much we can do together, and I hope you'll join me in doing just that. Thank you.
So our next hymn is a modern-day Jewish anthem, Olam Chesed Yibaneh, which was one of many songs being sung at that protest last week while folks were being arrested. The Hebrew words translate roughly to, "The world will be built with loving kindness." Chesed Yibaneh, yadadai. Sing that with me. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, yadadai. It's a little bit different. Listen up. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, yadadai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, yadadai. I will build this world from love, yadadai. And you must build this world from love, yadadai. And if we build this world from love, yadadai, then God will build this world from love, yadadai. Olam Chesed, Olam Chesed Yibaneh, yadadai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, yadadai. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, yadadai. Olam
Am Chesed Yibaneh.
Each time, each Sunday in our service, we take time to lift up those joys and sorrows within our community and in the wider world. This week, in our book of life, Todd Covert writes that he is concerned for his father who broke a hip yesterday at his apartment in Memphis. He was admitted for surgery last night, but is facing delays now. And in a moment, I'm going to sound this singing bowl. And after I do, I invite you to speak into this space. Any joys or sorrows, any names or occasions that are on your heart, on your mind this morning, and that you would like lifted up into this community, and this, our embracing meditation. Carolina and Abby. I invite you to join me now in a spirit of meditation or prayer. I invite you to get comfortable, maybe closing your eyes or softening your gaze. Just coming into presence in this moment. As I offer you these words from Paul Beadle. Spirit of life and love, justice and peace, day in and day out wait weary tasks. Burdens we lift again, worn paths we wear some more. Want and means worn thin, and fatigue, pain and grief, coldness of heart, bitter and weary days. Where we know desolation, how do we call forth hope? When our hearts are buried, sunken down, how do we dig out? rise up. What healing touch do we long for? What balm might we take and share? Come what may, O Spirit of life, may we keep a ray of light for our inward path, a living water in the depths of us, a cleansing breath at our core. May we keep them for ourselves and to share. May we call forth from each other vitality and tenacity. May love rest in us. May justice live through us. May we have the touch to call others back to life and love, justice and peace. May we sing back their songs and add the Alleluias. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power. So may it be. Amen. Ashe. Blessed be. Let us enter into silence together.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
The words of Edward Everett Hale. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do.
Our second reading is called The Low Road by Marge Piercy. What can they do to you? Whatever they want. They can set you up They can bust you, they can break your fingers, they can burn your brain with electricity, blur you with drugs till you can't walk, can't remember. They can take your child, wall up your lover. They can do anything you can't stop them from doing. How can you stop them? Alone, you can fight. You can refuse. You can take what revenge you can, but they roll over you. But two people fighting back to back can cut through a mob. A snake dancing file can break a cordon. An army can meet an army. Two people can keep each other sane, can give support, conviction, love, massage, hope, sex. Three people are a delegation, a committee, a wedge. With four, you can play bridge and start an organization. With six, you can rent a whole house, eat pie for dinner with no seconds, and hold a fundraising party. A dozen make a demonstration. 100 fill a hall. 1,000 have solidarity and your own newsletter. 10,000 power and your own paper. 100,000 your own media. 10 million your own country. It goes on, one at a time. It starts when you care to act. It starts when you do it again after they said no. It starts when you say we and know what you mean. And each day you mean one more. I invite you now to rise in body or in spirit and join in singing the hymn, Our World is One World. It's number 134 in your gray hymnals.
Our world is one world. What touches one affects us all. The seas that wash us round about, the clouds that cover us, the rains that fall. Our world is one world. The thoughts we think affects us all. The way we build our attitudes with love or hate we make a bridge or wall. Our world is one world. Its ways of wealth affects us all. The way we spend, the way we share, who are the rich or poor, who stand or fall. Our world is one world, just like a ship that bears us all, where fear and greed make many holes, but where our hearts can hear a different call. Please be seated.
There's a small tension there between our two readings this morning. Edward Everett Hale calling us to do our part, even though we are only one. He seems to acknowledge that collective action is more powerful, but invites us to take our own individual actions, knowing that they will be something. Marge Piercy, on the other hand, tells us that sure, you can act individually, but the powers that be can just roll right over you. It is only through our power, our solidarity as a group, that we can make a meaningful difference. While I expect that they are both generally on the same page, that slight tension is worth exploring. Because, well, Percy is right that it is through collective action that we build power, that we can truly affect meaningful change. Hale is also right in that we are, after all, only one. We cannot make others act, only invite, encourage, inspire, support, connect, conspire, unite. Perhaps meeting in the middle is to say that our individual actions are best done in collaboration with others. And yet, I don't know about you, but I know for me sometimes it feels like it can be hard to take action. Because the problems we face, the problems we are facing right now are so huge. National problems, global problems. It can be easy to feel overwhelmed. These are major challenges and loss we are facing. I do not have to name them. You can bring them to mind. They live in your heart. And it can feel hard to face it all. But ecologist, activist, and Buddhist scholar Joanna Macy suggests that that is perhaps the wrong way to think about it. She says, I consider myself fortunate to live in these times, because we are part of this vast global movement, a transition from empire to earth community. And the excitement and the alarm and even the overwhelm we feel are all a part of our waking up to this collective adventure. At this critical moment in human history, pivotal perhaps more so than any other that we as humanity have ever faced, we have the privilege to take part in that transformation, to be part of that shift. Joanna continues, as in any true adventure, there is risk and uncertainty. Uncertainty, when accepted, sheds a bright light on the power of intention. Intention is what you can count on, not the outcome, but the motivation you bring, the vision you hold, the compass setting you choose to follow. Our intention and resolve can save us from getting lost in grief. And so I think what this means for us is to find hope. And the thing is, hope doesn't live in certainty. Hope lives in that uncertainty. It wouldn't be an adventure if we knew where we were going. We wouldn't need to contribute anything if it was all going to work out. And so that hope lies in the possibility of not knowing what would happen. Rebecca Solnit, whose words I seem to return to in sermons about every couple years or so, writes, your opponents would love you to believe that it is hopeless, that you have no power, that there's no reason to act, that you can't win. Hope, she writes, locates itself in the premises that we don't know what will happen, and that in the spaciousness of uncertainty, is room to act. When you recognize uncertainty, you recognize that you may be able to influence the outcomes, you alone or in concert with a few dozen or several million others. Hope is an embrace of the unknown and unknowable, an alternative to the certainty of both optimists and pessimists. Optimists think it will all be fine without our involvement. Pessimists take the opposite position. Both excuse themselves from acting. It's the belief, she writes, that what we do matters, even though how and when it may matter, who and what it may impact, are not things we can know beforehand. We have the power to make change. This month, our theme has been awe. And as I have mentioned in past Sundays, we oftentimes think of awe as this thing of like, oh my God, that's so awesome, that's amazing. But of course, the original definition of awe was that and this sense of fear at just how big things are. And I think we are facing that. We are facing that. But perhaps we should be in awe of our own power. Marianne Williamson writes, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. And so, yes, we can make a difference. I believe, I know that each of us has that capacity, even if we don't know exactly how it will play out. And as the saying goes, think globally, act locally. That is where we can have more power. One of the challenges we face, though, I think particularly for us here, is that even locally, is that the scope of the problems can be huge if when you live in a city with almost 4 million people. But that doesn't stop us from taking small actions, collecting food for the West Valley Food Pantry, or showing up to support the first supportive community housing project for homeless folks in Chatsworth. That's why our environmental justice ministry is going down to Pasadena to advocate for 100% renewable energy. Even though it's in a different city, we are joining up with our fellow UUs as well as other activists. After all, it's not as if pollution and greenhouse gases understand things like city limits. Our Environmental Justice Committee has also shown up repeatedly over the past 5 or 6 years in Glendale to make sure that they don't build a new natural gas plant there, a struggle that is still ongoing. And we've also had a significant win in the city of Los Angeles. A few years ago, a handful of us met with our local city council member, Bob Blumenfeld, with an idea to have the city stop using insurance companies that also were insuring fossil fuel companies. It was only, I think, about 8 to 10 of us who actually went to the meeting, and only 2 were kind of technical experts who could speak to the deep specifics. But our city council member, who represents several 100,000 people, liked the idea, and now Los Angeles is the largest city in the world to adopt such a policy. And as Anna shared earlier, while it was only a little more than 24 faith leaders who were arrested protesting BlackRock Financial Group, which is the largest financial group of its kind in the world, it kind of seems daunting, you know. But countless insurance companies and institutions and investment firms have been pulling their support of fossil fuels because of this exact sort of pressure applied over the past decade. And many others are protesting fossil fuels in different ways. One of the other reasons they have pulled their support is because these projects have become increasingly risky as people have put their bodies on the line, literally blockading in front of pipelines, setting up camps and protests, all along the way, holding things up as long as possible. And so there are many different ways and approaches. One alone may not make the difference, but together is transformation. As we saw with the bridge weavers in that video this morning, there are things we simply can't do alone. It takes two villages to weave that rope, all working together, each doing their part to contribute. And to make that happen, it's everyone in the village's responsibility to harvest grass and weave it into cords. For that day, that first day to show up, everyone already comes prepared. Without each individual contribution, there would be nothing to weave the bridge with. But it takes the strength of the whole village to stretch those ropes out. It simply cannot. It cannot be done alone. Now, of course, there are still a couple of people whose responsibility it is to lead the effort, who know the way, the techniques in which it must be built. But they too rely on the wisdom that was passed down over countless generations. We never do it alone. And you can also see the power of collective action literally in the weaving of the rope. If you pull an individual blade of grass, it breaks easy. But woven together, those braids become a cord, and those cords become a rope, and the ropes are braided together into thick cables, and the cables become a bridge which can hold the weight of dozens of people at the same time. And if by some fluke one did break, I don't know that it's ever happened, but if one did break, there are more cables there to carry that weight. Adrienne Marie Brown, in her book Emergent Strategy, writes, "The idea of interdependence is that we can meet each other's needs in a variety of ways, that we can truly lean on others as they can lean on us. It means we have to decentralize our idea of where solutions and decisions happen, where ideas come from. It is a pleasure to be able to be honest, to expect to be whole, and to know that we are in a community that will hold us accountable and change with us." It takes all of us to make a difference. And the other beauty, the last thing I'll share in all of us coming together, is that because, as we know, there are so many problems we are facing, not just climate and environmental problems, but racial justice, continued war and militarism, threats to our democracy, such massive gaps in income inequality, attacks on reproductive justice, attacks on immigrants, and so much more. It can be hard to see all of these things in the world, all of these things that cry out to us for attention. And it can be easy to want to, I know it in myself, to want to respond to this and respond to that and respond to just every little bit. But the reality is, if we do that, we water down our gifts and our voice and our unique contributions by spreading ourselves too thin, trying to dedicate ourselves to every single thing which needs our attention. And so the reminder of that community, of our interconnectedness, of our woven togetherness, is to know that if I focus on this, someone else will be looking out for this. And through all of those strands woven together, we weave a bridge or a net to catch us, a bridge to carry us over into whatever beautiful future we are trying to create. So figure out what your work is, and then go out there and do it. Or better yet, find someone else to do it with. May it be so. Before we sing our closing hymn, I just wanted to lift up a couple of announcements. Again, rally tomorrow at 2:30. Meeting here if you want to carpool over. And I believe we're making posters after the service. Is that right? So if you can't come tomorrow, but you want to have some contribution, we'll be making posters after the service, or you can continue to join in our UU the Vote efforts. Also, as I mentioned a few weeks ago, I'm going to be starting this thing, gardening with Reverend Matthew. So that starts this Tuesday. I love gardening. I've learned a lot. And as I have been talking about all service long, we can do more together. And so it's an opportunity to work together here. And we're going to be doing this every Tuesday, kind of taking a look at whatever needs doing, and I'd love to pass on some of the wisdom that I've learned over the years, and I would love to hear some of yours. So I'd love to see you Tuesday or some following Tuesday. And then finally, Friday night is our Friday Fun and Fellowship, and so we have a potluck at 6 o'clock, and then after that we're going to be doing our Sacred Cinema around 7, maybe a little bit later after we've cleaned up, where we're going to be watching The Wizard of Oz, and so which I know many of us have seen before and is a beloved movie. And then on Sunday, that's going to be the theme for our service next Sunday. So I would love to see you for any and all of those. And as always, thanks to the people who have made this service possible, to David Early, our worship associate, to Kevin Matthey, to Adam and Conrad and Phil up in the tech booth, to Lynn and Louise and Linda out at the welcome desk, to all the people who help out in so many different ways, our ushers and our Zoom hosts, and those who help out set up for coffee hour, and those who will help clean up. Your contributions are the heart of this church. And so now let us rise in body or in spirit and join in singing our closing hymn, Building a New Way. It's number 1017 in your teal hymnal.
We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need.
Peace and freedom.
Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, the world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
Now, I invite you, if you feel comfortable, to reach out and take the hand of someone nearby you. If you don't, that's fine. Just, you can put your hands out and just send that energy out to the others in the space, or for those of you joining us online, we send that energy out to you and hope you send it out to all of the others gathered here. As I extinguish our chalice, I leave you with these words from the Reverend Wayne Arneson. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone.
Did you decide to not mention the harvest auction? You forget.
Thank you. So